This demo is very similar to the previous demo where we saw a mutating PSP that modified the Nginx pod. However, in this demo, the difference is going to be we're going to use a tool to automate more of this process. So you don't have to figure out which fields are mutating and check your pod specs. Remember, that's a very intensive task to do, and I wouldn't want everyone to do this across thousands of pods, across hundreds of namespaces. So that's why we wrote a tool called PSP Migrator, and we'll see how PSP Migrator can make the migration much more easier, especially if you have mutating PSP policies in your clusters. So we have the same application as we used in the previous demo that serves a very simple index HTML. We're gonna deploy that, and then we're gonna, instead of relying on PSP, we're gonna see that this is mutating. We didn't have it. This is the same scenario as before, but this time we're gonna use PSP Migrator. So PSP Migrator has a few commands that you can run. One of them is to check which of your pods in your clusters are mutating. As you can see, it correctly detected that the pod nginx non-priv is being mutated by my PSP. You can also check whether a PSP policy can be mutating and which fields are potentially mutating. It shows correctly that the PSP Pro has the following mutating fields: run as user and fs group, and that's correct. Those are the actual fields that are currently mutating the pods. Next, we're gonna run the migrate command, which will run, but it won't run. It won't actually proceed with the migration of PSA because it detected that you had a mutating PSP. That one of the pods is being mutated by PSP in the default namespace. So it stopped. It tells you that you have to modify the pod spec, since it no longer mutates your pod. It provides you with the actual comment, which you can copy paste, and that will be shown here. And then it tells what is the difference that it detected. The main difference it detected was that the fs group, the pod does not have an fs group, but the deployment does not have a security context fs group, but the pod did have a security context fs group. And then it also shows the relevant PSP profile that was for the pod, which was, and it shows the mutating fields of that PSP profile. So it makes it easier to know what's in your cluster than having to read the docs and look at all the possible mutating fields, or do a diff tool to look at the different pod specs. Now let's fix this deployment such that we no longer rely on PSP mutating the pod. Same as before, we're going to apply the deployment, but this time we added security context to it because that's what PSP Migrator told us. Those are the fields that are being added. And now we're going to do a migrate. And what PSP Migrator does, it will do a dry run and try to apply restricted. And then if there's warnings, or if it cannot be admitted without warnings, it will try baseline. And then it detected automatically that it suggests using baseline in namespace default, which is the same when we went to the fast and easy path. We came to the same conclusion. And then you can select whether you want to enforce, audit, or skip doing anything with this namespace and go to the next namespace. Enforce, and that applies the it applies the labels on the namespace, so it starts enforcing the baseline profile, and you can see that here. So PSP Migrator helped us to do two things: to actual enforcement of the pod security standards, and also to automatically detect whether you have any mutating PSPs. And the mutating PSP part is probably the best benefit, because you don't having to do that yourself is very time consuming.